Peter Michaels.
Patrick Bateman.
The one and... never mind. I can't even say that.
Oh, I'm pretty sure. There's a Brett Michaels.
But
There's a
that
George
Patrick
Michaels.
Patrick Michaels. Patrick Bateman
Oh, you're
is
the one and only...
fictional character.
Really?
Yes, a murderer.
Oh.
Or so it
That doesn't
is
fit the bill at all.
No, it doesn't. I'm glad that you said that. We are in the Communal Creative Studios.
Town Center Mall, downtown Red Deer, studios. I don't know where you're going there.
We'll let them know if
you
they
said
want to
it
bleep
just
that.
fine.
Well, I mean, we haven't really had an opportunity to say where we are because we just launched this new space a few weeks back, right?
Correct.
But we're here tonight because we just did something really cool and something we haven't been able to experience in 15, 16 months.
I think, like I said, it just felt like a fog lifted,
Mm-hmm.
and you forget the feelings that you feel when live music is present. But yeah, I think the idea right from the get-go was to have live music as part of the show.
Yes.
And the pandemic has made that a little bit difficult.
And the ability to promote and have all of us experience, some bands that you may never have heard of before. And maybe that can't be said for everyone about the band that we had in tonight, which we're not going to name right now.
Oh, we don't?
No, we're not going to name them.
You tease.
We're not going to name them. But, sometime in the next few weeks at least, we'll be able to show you guys what happened tonight. But basically, we had a band in the studio, and they played a few songs, and it was... Well, you were definitely riding a live music high.
It's just... and it's a fact that when you see live music, there's endorphins, there's all kinds of things that happen to you that you don't necessarily think about.
Yeah.
And I felt it. That's live music is a huge part of, or was a huge part of my life. And just to be back in front of musicians playing.
Very exclusive show,
and
too.
Exclusively. And there were several times where I'm like, how did I get to be this lucky?
Yes, exactly. Now, I will say I was reminded of something tonight, and for many years, I've ignored the benefits of earplugs. I can imagine that won't be detrimental to me in the future. But so yeah, we got to get some earplugs here. But the feeling of the drums being so loud that you like blink every time the snare is hit,
just feel it right in.
I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I forgot. Now, obviously, it's been a long time since we saw live music. The last show I was at was the Glorious Sons and Black Pistol Fire, which we've talked about earlier on episode 2 with Eric Owen from Black Pistol Fire. That was March 10th. March 10th, 2020.
It's pretty easy to remember.
That's true. That was my last concert. Was it yours?
Well, I mean, technically no. When things kind of seemed like they were on the right track again, remember Bose held the red light night when Whale and the Wolf from Edmonton came down.
Mm-hmm.
So I would definitely count that as being in front of live music, although it was different, right?
Yeah.
The band is behind
a little more restrictive.
A little more restrictive. So, but yes, the last full-blown regular concert was Black Pistol Fire and the Glorious Sons.
And coincidentally, just last week, we were able to announce...
So the last band to play...
Yeah.
And the first band to announce
their post-COVID shows is
the Glorious Sons, which is amazing.
And we're pretty lucky, I think, looking at that tour date list here in Red Deer to be one of the only cities getting shows of this size, right?
So and Vancouver's got multiple shows, which you'd expect Vancouver getting multiple shows.
Are they the Commodore in Vancouver?
The Commodore in Vancouver,
okay.
And I think they do 3 nights. That's so good. 3 nights in Vancouver, 2 nights in Red Deer.
Yeah. It's incredible. And I think in Edmonton and Calgary, they're playing at pretty big venues, aren't they?
Yeah, bigger. I think they're Mac Holligan in Calgary, which is where they were going to play before everything shut down. So, but I don't know that we've ever really gotten into it, but we have a really good history with that band in Red Deer specifically. One of the first markets, I think, that really kind of adopted the Glorious Sons.
So end of January, beginning of February, they're doing 2 shows here in Red Deer with JJ Wild opening. And although they are the very first band to announce post-COVID shows, I'm getting the idea that we probably won't have to wait until 2022.
I think we'll be seeing some live music well before then, for sure.
So, I can't wait to get my second dose, that's for sure, sometime soon. Speaking of concerts, and this is something I've wanted to ask you for weeks now on the road, the stage, is what was your first concert?
It's... people probably like, really? I honestly don't remember exactly what the first concert was, and it depends on what you're talking about, right? Like we had some local bands come through and play. Like I grew up in Didsbury,
which is can you is that 45 from Calgary? What do you say?
Yeah, 45 from Calgary.
Okay.
45. Didsbury's smack dab in the middle of Red Deer and
Right.
and Calgary. So there were some things like that. I do. It's embarrassing, but I do remember going to see. I think it was like Corey Hart. With my cousin. So I think that might have technically been my first like arena show.
And that was at the Dome?
And that was at the Saddle Dome.
Right.
But the recollection of that is vague and it didn't have the big. So if you're talking about the first concert that had a big impact.
Like your first big boy concert.
My first big boy concert, I was 13. That's the big boy. You're with your big boy.
Were you with either of your parents?
No, I was actually with my sister.
Okay. I'd say that's a big boy concert.
And it was very last minute, but yeah, so it would have been 13. I would have been 13.
Raffi.
And it was Raffi. And no, it was the guy that plays the pan flute. Who's the pan flute guy?
Is he a member of Sharon Lois and Bram?
It was Motley Crue.
Okay. Oh, when you were 13?
So I was 13 going to see Motley Crue, and and I was a big fan. I'd been listening to them since I was 10.
Yeah.
That's what most 10-year-olds listen to, is it not?
Maybe in Didsbury. And you're trying really hard to rail against something.
So I would consider that to be the first show, although there were others, but that one was the one that had the biggest impact.
13, eh? Where was it?
Saddle Dome.
It was.
I can still remember exactly where the seats were.
Yeah,
I can
you're not
remember which way
that.
my neck was cranked. 13 years old. It's Motley Crue. There's a lot of debauchery going on in the stands and on the stage.
You were never the same again.
And never the same. Honestly, it did. It's like that epiphany moment that, I've had a couple of those, but set me on the course of what I loved about live music. And
yeah, I've been trying to think. I'm pretty sure I know what my first big boy show was, but before that, it would have been like Dudley. Did you guys have Dudley the Dragon out here?
No.
Well, that may have just been an Ontario children's show. Or Rain. I remember seeing Rain.
The Beatles.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I took my kids to see that here several times.
Yeah, I was probably in grade 4 or 5.
Good tribute.
Not a big boy concert though.
Right.
But my first big boy concert was Sarstock.
Oh, well.
Which is pretty wild. I remember grade 6, I was still in school, and my parents, I don't know, I think I went home one day and they were just like, hey, we're going to go to the show. And it was, for those that don't know, it was literally 500,000 people.
Yeah. So great. So you're about 12, 13. So we're about the same age. You're maybe just a touch younger. Like what do you remember about being in a crowd that size?
I remember there's a couple things. Well, first of all, I remember they had to shut down a lot of like the major roads to get in and out because again, 500,000 people walked into this park. And so we got to walk with, hundreds of people over the big highway in Toronto. And I remember a strange smell in the air. I think I remember that. I remember that there were people close to us. I don't know if they're directly beside us or maybe we just walked past them, but I think they had baked. My memory of it is that they had baked like a bottle of vodka into a pound cake.
Oh.
Because I don't think you weren't allowed to like bring your own booze there. But yeah, I remember I very far back. I think I did some sitting on my dad's shoulders at one point. A lot of people on a very hot day having a little too much fun, maybe some of them. But yeah, I mean, the Stones, AC/DC, that's who I was really interested in, was AC/DC and Rush, the Guess Who. I mean, it was
and that was that 2002?
Yeah.
Was Sam Roberts there?
Sam Roberts was there. That was early in Sam Roberts. He was one of the first bands that played, actually. Yeah. Flaming Lips were there. I really remember that because they had all the bubbles and the people wearing the costumes and stuff. The Isley Brothers, I think, were there. Blues Brothers 2002 or whatever.
Yeah.
Justin Timberlake.
And if I recall, the Stones headlined, right? It was AC/DC and then the Stones.
Yes.
And I do that one thing I remember because that was telecast, right? So that was
huge.
All across. So I remember watching it at home, and I remember that being kind of a little bit of a moment of going, like, AC/DC might be the greatest rock and roll band in history, because I thought AC/DC kind of stole the show from the Stones.
Well, I didn't care about the Stones at all then. I was purely about AC/DC. We actually walked out. Like, we wanted to get a head start away from the 500,000 people. So we actually left the grounds. We were walking out as the Stones were playing Ruby Tuesday. I have a very, very fond memory of that because I love that song.
You know what? In all of my years of concerting,
yeah,
I can count, to the best of my knowledge, 2 shows that I walked out early on or left early on.
Yeah.
It didn't, even if I didn't love the band or they were a shitty performance, I stayed to the end for absolutely every single one. There's only 2 times I can remember leaving early.
Well, one of these days, I think you know the story, my Metallica story about leaving the show early. I'll tell you about that another time, but it's also almost too coincidental. It's just, anyways.
Why are we saving that for?
okay, so I will go to see Metallica. I'm 17 years old. They're on the Death Magnetic tour at the ACC in Toronto. My favorite Metallica song of all time is Blackened. I love that song so much. He will dispute this or refute this, but I'm pretty sure my buddy, there's also a strange smell in the air that night. He went to the bathroom. He was in there for way too long. I went to check on him. And as soon as I'm in there, I could just hear that Blackened riff hit and missed pretty much the whole song. He was fine, in case anyone's wondering. Fast forward, well, when did we see Metallica in Edmonton? 3 years ago?
That was on the Worldwide, or the Hardwired tour?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were there, station promotion. We had a bunch of listeners go, so we're kind of babysitting.
Yep.
Right? And my coworker and I, Matt, we decided to head to the bus early before the encore or during the encore so that we could make sure we met every listener there and everyone was accounted for. And sure enough, as we're walking out, just as soon as we got past like the no re-entry zone, Blackened riff hits.
That's crazy. And that's not I mean, I wouldn't call that an often played Metallica.
No, I don't think it is.
But I'd bet if you looked up the stats,
not every show.
It's definitely not on every show.
And Metallica also like 12 years later or something. So
wow.
Yeah, that was
heartbreaking.
Yeah, maybe someday I'll get to see it, but I've listened to it from away from my seats, I guess.
What's the band that you've seen the most?
Probably Jack White.
Really?
Jack White or
Nice.
Queens, yeah. Yeah, I saw the last White Stripe show in Toronto, which was pretty nuts. That was another big boy show. I think I was 15.
Yeah.
That was a wild time, but yeah, it makes me sad.
And that was on the Icky Thump tour. Obviously, that's the big concert regret of mine was I hadn't quite fully gotten into the White Stripes by that point.
I remember
and
you telling
again,
me this.
we were working at the radio station, and there was a bunch of people from the station that were going to see the show, and they're like, "Oh, we got an extra ticket, you should come." And I'm like, I'm kind of into, they're okay.
Yeah.
And I said no. And then it was probably within about 6 months after that show that the Jack White bug hit me, and I became a massive fan.
And one of the first times we met.
And actually, you're right. I think that would have been the first time we met. Was at a Jack White show at
the Lazaretto, whatever that album was called.
What the
called Lazaretto?
What's the name of that park in Calgary?
Fort something.
Fort Calgary, maybe?
They're doing X Fest,
right.
Which doesn't exist anymore. But yeah, that was. I think
right.
you were
that
there
was
with your dad too,
That's
right?
And my dad was my concert buddy for that.
Ian Rankin was there.
We've talked about this, I think, lots of times, but my dad was always into cooler music than I was, so he was into Jack White long before I had gotten into Jack White and the White Stripes. So yeah,
he was a smart man. Well, listen, like I could talk about concerts all day long, and we're gonna do that in the near future as the road the stage progresses. But if you haven't gone back and listened to some of our interviews with people that actually perform at concerts.
Well, and we talked about some of the favorite shows. Like, I mean, that having Eric Owen
from Black Pistol
Fire. I again that first night they came and played Bose in 2018, whatever it was, just floored, absolutely floored.
Smack you around a few times.
And just to hear him talk about some of the shows and recollections of Red Deer, Said the Whale was our first guest, and I think last year, pre-pandemic, I'd seen Said the Whale 3 times.
Yeah.
In the year leading up to that.
Those days are returning soon.
They are coming back. So in the meantime, go and check out those previous episodes. We've had some great guests on and just great chats about what life is like on the road for those bands, what life has been like in the pandemic when they haven't been able to be on the road.
Yeah.
We've had some pretty amazing conversations
and
thus far.
We're going to continue, so make sure you follow us. Tell your friends, tell your families, tell complete strangers about the road the stage all over social media. Follow Bo's Bar and Stage on YouTube.
Tick.
What's that?
Tick. We're running out of time. I think that's
okay.
What I'm getting at there.
Pete's getting texts. All right. Well, yeah. Okay, cool. Next Wednesday?
Next Wednesday. Do we want to tease who's on the way? Let's not.
No, we better not. No, let's.
We'll just let the episodes happen when they get released every
Wednesday. By the way, shout out to producers Ryan and Ryley. Last thing. Wednesday.
The Road the Stage is produced by Ryan Kuly and Ryley Surian. Recorded in Red Deer, Alberta, and in partnership with Bo's Bar and Stage, Troubled Monk, and Tourism Red Deer. The Road the Stage.